Hi, and welcome to the SEO podcast, Unknown Secrets of Internet Marketing. My name is Chris Burris, owner of eWebStyle.
I am Charles Lewis, your Internet Marketing Specialist.
Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of our podcast. This is podcast number 251. We just finished 250. As always, there is a tip from our previous podcast, and that tip is test obsessively and consider the long-term effects before you stop using an ad.
Yeah, sometimes we run in, a lot of times people are looking for immediate results, right? And so you don't give enough time for accurate testing. So if you're running different ads, let's say this is with a pay-per-click campaign, give some time for those ads to actually go, and more importantly, see what happens after the effect, right? Just because you may not have saw the results, let's say in the first 30 days, doesn't mean that the visits from those ads actually didn't work or didn't convert. Right, you may begin to see repeat business or people coming back and finally converting from the ads they saw originally, and you won't know that if you cut it off and move to the next ad.
Yeah.
And so run them at the same time. Look at the data, record that data, and test it. That's essentially what you're doing as you record that data. Then you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Hey, this ad brought in this many people, and this many people converted, and it took them this long. This ad brought in this many people, and they didn't convert, and here's why not. And then you make some decisions. So test obsessively, and then after you finish obsessively testing, test again.
Make good decisions. There's two things to remember. One of them is that make sure you're doing remarketing.
Yeah.
And the other one is, what is the real value of a customer? Is it just that first purchase, or is it the lifetime value of that customer?
A lot of times people don't consider that, the type of business you have when testing. Like if your process leads people to come back and make repeat purchases over and over again, then test the effectiveness of your ad. How often do they come back due to certain ads? And, things like that.
Excellent. All right, so podcast number 1, please remember we're broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and we are your friendly local neighborhood top position snatchers, where our mantra is,
don't be a douche.
If you can, tweet now. What you should tweet on your Twitter device is
the exact thing you see behind us right now, if you're watching. Hashtag SEO Podcast. This is number 251. Be sure to tag us in it at eWebStyle, at Best SEO Podcast. That way we can follow you back and do all of our social stuff.
If this is your first podcast, welcome. You're going to enjoy it. We'll get through the potatoes of the podcast here shortly and into the meat. If this is more than your first, if you've listened to more than one, this is your umpteenth.
So this is not your first.
Thank you. It's going to come out eventually in some odd way. You could do us one small favor. One of those favors actually has 3 steps. Create an account. Go into iTunes. Create an account. That's step 2. Write a review. And if you choose to, you can send us an email. Podcast at
e-webstyle.com.
The next thing you could do is you could go onto Facebook, which is facebook.com/eWebstyle. And when you good, it's not just me. And when you get there, you can click to add a review. Hopefully, you'll give us a 5-star review. Next, you can go to Stitcher, stitcher.com space SEO Podcast, Unknown Secrets of Internet Marketing. Will get you to the right place.
Especially if you do that in a Chrome browser.
It may not work in IE.
Well, I think Firefox does it.
Firefox.
Firefox has been doing it. They just never promote it.
Okay.
Google's like, well, we're advertising the fact that we do
that. It's pretty smart. And so on Stitcher, you could also leave us a 5-star review. Finally, on our G Plus account, which we've made real easy for you to get to, all you need to do is go to
e-webstyle.com/Google Plus
or
/Google Plus
or
/G Plus
or /G
Plus.
All of those will take you to our G Plus local page where we ask you to do 3 things.
Do those 3 things. First off, leave us a 5-star review. That's most important. Then after you leave that review, put us in a circle, give us a +1. We sure appreciate it.
Excellent. And here we go. Finally, just all the ways you can stalk us, haunt us, harass us, and we like to be harassed. Facebook.com/eWebstyle,
Twitter.com/eWebstyle,
YouTube.com/eWebstyle, and Instagram.com/eWebstyle. If you are a PHP expert or a WordPress expert, please,
hold on, before you even say the number, this is extremely important. We're growing, right? And so we keep putting this ad out there for a reason. PHP expert, WordPress superstar, call this number.
Willing to work with world-class experts in internet marketing. The phone number is, for your audio resume, leave it at 713-510-7846. We do have a referral program. You refer an SEO client to us. They pay their bill. we pay you.
Pretty simple.
Get a free website analysis on our website. Anywhere you'll find it. Can't miss it. That's just how it is. There is no AlgoCat. So let's do a little bit of news. Have you heard of ELO or ELLO or AYO if you are speaking in Spanish?
Maybe.
So it's just they're like bogging down their servers. It's a social media platform. It's still invite only, and it's going nuts apparently. So I submitted a request for an invite. Maybe you can get Chuck on that one also.
No, what do they do?
I think it's like a face. So the biggest claim to fame is it's not Facebook. There's no ads. They have some memorandum.
Eventually, they'll get to the point where they need to monetize it.
Yeah, that's just the reality.
Because unless they plan on charging for users like that Facebook rumor, you heard that? Well, Facebook gonna start charging $2.99.
Oh wow, they would make a lot of money and lose a whole lot of people. I think they would make a lot of money and then it would die off.
I think both 50% of the people would just stop.
Yeah, they have like. How many users?
Yeah,
so
billions.
Billion. So $500 million paying $1 is $500 million a month.
True.
They could make a whole lot of money and lose a whole lot of users. Remember when the iPhone came out and it had that little issue where you couldn't talk on it, and Steve Jobs actually said, "Well, they're just holding it wrong."
Yeah.
So this article I saw was the iPhone 6. You're sitting on it wrong. I also thought this was good. That if you're what is it a hipster, you can't live without your skinny jeans or your iPhones, and maybe they're just incompatible.
Yeah, they don't work.
So you have to change to something. BitTorrent has bundles that can accept It's pretty good, right? That can accept payments. And then I thought this was cool. You know, there's all this talk about drones in the U.S. and the FAA, making rulings about drones, and now you can actually use it for filming. They've given some licenses to certain companies. In Germany, they're already using it to deliver stuff. And I thought this was a genius application. There's an island called Juist, which is
you gotta get to an island.
There's no ferry. There's no helicopters ineffective at the time or whatever. Boom, off goes a drone.
Just a package. Like, we need a whole helicopter.
Medicine, right? As an example, or I don't know, antidote.
Yeah.
That could incentivize you to use whatever is available. So I thought it was pretty cool. All right, so we've got a review here from Eduardo Garcia, and I actually saw he tweeted, so he's probably watching now. So cheers to you, Eduardo. Just in the middle. Okay, so this one is a 5-star review. Just in the middle of a serious binge to catch up on missing podcasts 230 through 250. It's taken him 2 days.
Wow.
Your podcast is high.
That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
I can dig it.
This is Eduardo in Panama. We've mentioned him before. I've actually had a conversation with him. Your podcast is high-quality resource for those of us working in SEO. I really appreciate that you share not just technical SEO tips, but also the design tips to improve conversions, which is what it's all about. I mean, at the end of the day,
we do with SEO to get placement, to get conversions.
Yeah.
Like, that's the end goal.
What we tell our clients is we want a 10-year relationship. A 10-year relationship doesn't happen with a pretty website. It doesn't happen with lots of traffic. It happens because you're actually getting business. It says, thank you for including both the SEO and business tips. He did give us a suggestion. Some people have complained about the self-promotion or the potatoes, and he suggested that we, kind of similar to a commercial, put it in the middle. So we'd like to get your feedback.
Yeah, hit us up.
Hit us
the
up.
Whole little section we do with the, letting you know about our reviews,
right.
and maybe even our contact info. Right? What if we broke up the meat and hit it there for about 40 seconds before we got right back to the meat?
Yeah. Let us know what you think about that. I thought that was a good idea, a good suggestion. And then remind us day and time we record. We do record Fridays. Today we missed our 12:15 mark. That is becoming more and more unusual to miss our mark. So just for your records, we broadcast.
Friday, 12:15
shouldn't be missing the microphone. Yeah, we broadcast. I was just scratching the microphone. I was like, what is this thing? I'm sure that sounded really good. Thanks again, Eduardo. Punch in the face. And if you're listening, another punch in the face, and watching right now, punch in the face to you. Thank you. And that's all I got for the potatoes. I think you got a couple potatoes.
I got some news on the potato. Yeah, so that news first, this news is actually kind of cool.
Right.
It almost could have been AlgoCat, but not quite. So Google is not forcing users to automatically create a Google G Plus profile anymore.
They were before, right?
Yeah, remember at first when you created the account, we knew, and everybody else, well, not everybody else, but most people in SEO knew that if you had a Google account, you also have a G Plus account.
Yep.
Now that's not true.
Right.
So
not necessarily.
previous users, yeah, you still have one because that's how the system was. But new users, whether you're trying to sign up for Gmail or YouTube or maybe you just want to do a Hangout or whatever it is, you don't need a Google Plus account to do that.
Right.
Matter of fact, when you sign up now, it gives you an option. No thanks, I don't want a G Plus account, or please continue.
Cool.
And so the article I read, pulled that from, they had some contradicting statements. One was saying, yeah, Google's probably about to shut the Plus down, and another failed experiment with social.
No.
I seriously doubt that.
Yeah.
And then he said, at the end of the day, what they're doing is scaling back and realizing we can't be forceful, can't push people to use it. Let's just keep it there.
Yeah.
Give people some options.
Well, and how many, I know people have 10 Gmail accounts.
Exactly.
They do not need 10 G Plus accounts, so they may be actually creating headaches. Okay, well, I have it, and which account am I logged in? If you've got a G Plus account for all of them, then whatever one you were logged in last is where you're posting your G Plus stuff. And where did it all go? And so
it's about simplifying things for them.
Yeah.
So punching the face to you guys, that's actually a pretty smart move.
Good decision.
And speaking of punches in the face, man, this one punch in the face goes to longtime podcast supporter, longtime eWeb Style supporter and fan, Dean Calhoun. So he hit us up just talking about some conversions. Talking conversions, right?
Other ways to convert. Not specifically website related and not specifically traffic related or position related.
Not specifically.
Right.
Exactly. So he actually put a live chat feature, and people are familiar with live chat features on his site. And he was excited because of adding that feature actually increased engagement and increased conversions.
Yeah.
And I want to tell the people that a live chat feature can do that if indeed you're there.
Yeah.
The problem I see with a lot of sites is they have a feature but no one's there to monitor it. And so frequently when you go to the site, it says live chat not available because no one's there to chat with you.
Yeah.
And so...
like our CRM, our customer records management system, actually has a chat feature. And one of the problems, and I kind of put this in a suggestion to them, was, okay, if it can't tell me if it can't tell my visitors when nobody's available, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I can't use it because we talk about experience all the time. I can't have the visitor think he's going to contact somebody because it says open and available and nobody's there.
Yeah. And we'll talk about user experience in today's meet.
Oh,
and
cool.
So yeah, that's that. We'll get to the word of the week and what news a little later.
Very cool. All right, so time to get into the meat. You have survived the potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes is good too though. So dig this. I want to give a punch in the face to Alex Johnson. Alex Johnson was over there Search Engine Journal. He posted an article called, got my attention, SEO 101, 9 hashtag SEO considerations when building a new website. Right? 9 SEO things you should consider. 9 things you should consider when building a new website. And so let's dive right in. See what he's talking about. The first one is actually pretty good. He says, number 1, simple code. That's extremely important. He goes on to say simple code is more likely to work correctly in different browsers. I totally agree with that. He also says more code you have equals the more chance of errors, which equals the more opportunity for crawling issues and things like that. And I totally agree. Simplifying your code has so many valuable SEO benefits for a faster site, for more making your site browser friendly, and so on. So definitely simplify your code. A couple ways you can do that. And so what I've added was a clean WordPress install if you're using WordPress. Sometimes you may have a previous database backed up or something you've been saving. Scratch that. Do a clean install.
Yeah.
That way you don't have any rogue files or worse, hacked files or anything like that. You got a brand new WordPress default set of files to start with. Also, if you are using WordPress, remove any deactivated plugins and things that you just aren't using, because they still have code that's been added to your site to make those functional. And so remove them if you're not using them. And then clean your code up. Minify your CSS and your JavaScript and your HTML. Consolidate things. Don't have a style sheet for everything. One master style sheet and keep it clean. Make sure your tags are clean. All of that simple code has a huge effect with SEO. I appreciate him putting that as number 1. Number 2, he says blogging. He goes on to say, if you're having a new website built, it's worth using a CMS that includes an integrated blog. We're talking WordPress, and that's one of the reasons why we use WordPress, because it's a great content management system, but its original use was for blogging,
right?
And so it inherently incorporates your blog by default. It's there. the categories and posts and all of that's built in, and so the benefits to blogging knows what he's talking about is first having it on the same domain name, and that's key now. You know, a few years ago, the thing was having your blog on a separate name. It was like yourname.com, then it was like yournameblog.com, which is a whole separate site, whole separate domain name that linked back and forth, and there was some value in that. But now, in 2014, it's worth having all of that great blog content and all of that, those things you're blogging about on your domain name, and not on a separate domain name. And the reason why, he says, because you want them to have the same look and feel. And you do. You want the same voice,
right?
Which is key. So if you're on your site, on let's say About Us and your home page or whatever landing pages you have, if you're writing in, let's say third person, then your blog that's on the same domain name should be in third person. You want to remain consistent. So yeah, number one was simple code. Number two was blogging. Number three, he says, is consistency. And what he's talking about is consistency with the look and feel of your site. He says any content you add should have as little style coded in it as possible. All styles should then be coded by the main style sheet. And what he's referring to is the actual verbiage on your site. So if you're using, let's say, some sort of a WYSIWYG editor, like what you see is what you get editor, that's like WordPress on the visual tab instead of text, that's a WYSIWYG editor, for those who didn't know. Sometimes when using those, you will get extra coding. Right. So for example, you may type in Charles and you may want that to be bold. And so you click the B button. And what that ends up doing in the code is giving it a span with a class and a whole bunch of extra coding. It's not necessary when you could have just added a couple strong tags. Simplify your coding. And so that's what he's talking about, consistency with that. If you're going to style your text, put it on the page as plain text and then tag it and style it from the style sheet. And that way it renders faster, it loads quicker, and all of your bolds look the same, all of your bullets look the same, all of your headers look the same, and they're not different because they're styled in different places. I'll add this to it, since we're talking about consistency and styling. Go for a consistent look and feel across all platforms, not just your website. Maybe your Facebook header, your Twitter background, your YouTube header, your ads, if you're doing image ads, whatever magazine ads you're doing, whatever postcards or physical mail out you're doing. Go with the consistent look and feel across the board. Same logo, same color scheme, same content, and same voice. And so that way, when people see your ad, they see your branding, there's some consistency there. They know they're dealing with the right people. Number four, content. And content probably could have been number one. He says more specifically, your content needs to be relevant and helpful. And then he goes on to say, consider where you will want to use the content on your site. Well, I'm realizing as we deal with more and more people, that's one of the biggest issues. People don't understand where or how the content is going to be presented on their site. And so he's saying, keep that in mind as you're building a new site. When you're thinking SEO, how is this content going to be presented? What content am I going to have? You know, he says you may have product description pages or landing pages or category pages, which is fine. All that's kind of verbiage, but we're talking content. So let's think about other content, right? I added, video content or infographics or webinars or ebooks or even a podcast.
Exactly. We should do that.
Think about the content that you plan on putting it out before you build this site, so you can understand how it needs to be presented. So if we're going to be podcasting, then that means we're going to need a page where we can host a live video, right? eWebStore.com/SEO podcast. Or you may need an e-commerce store, and so you may decide I need a long description, a short description, I need whatever, a demonstration video. And so you have to consider that layout. All of that's content. So consider that content and how you'll be putting it out before you build your site. Number 5, site speed. Important. This almost could have been number 1 or 2 as well. He says site speed is a part of the algorithm. We know this already, but site speed also impacts the user experience. And I totally agree with that.
Yes.
We are in a microwave industry.
Yeah.
Microwave, life right now.
Society.
I need it right now.
Yeah.
Not right now, but
I don't even
right
have time
now.
to walk over to my computer to Google something. I need to pull out my phone and Google something.
And I don't even have time to pull out my phone and type it. I'm just going to voice it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I need instant results. And so when somebody goes to their phone and they do a voice search, they say your site actually comes up. And then they tap it or they click it. If they click it, let's say they're on the desktop, we're saying that site should be loading up in about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. Anything slower than that is going to equal a bounce.
It's going to start. Your bounces are going to go up, and they're going to go up exponentially.
Well, yeah, and even if they don't bounce, they're not going to engage with you because they're mentally have already begun putting up barriers. Right, man, this site's loading slow. I'm probably going to leave. And so as soon as the site comes up, you may have all the information they want, but they've already had a negative experience. Yep. And so they're not going to convert.
Not the way you want to start it.
Not the way you want to start it. And if it's a phone, people tend to be a little bit more patient on the phone, which is ironic, because it's a phone. They're not looking to have to do another search. I don't want to go back and type those characters again. I don't want to have to voice search again because I'm probably driving or doing something I shouldn't be doing on my phone anyway. And so site speed is extremely important here. 6 seconds. Like if you're 10 seconds, 20 seconds for a phone search, that's a horrible experience.
Yep.
6 seconds or less. They should tap, and then within 5-6 seconds, your site should load so they can peruse your content and figure out what they need. Some of the things he puts on here to improve his site speed would include avoid images, and we discussed this a couple podcasts ago. Avoid images where possible. Sometimes you can use coding to replicate images and get a faster site. Use Google's page speed tool. That's the best one out there.
Yeah.
Then just check how your site is rendering. They'll show you how it renders across platforms. Across monitors, and they'll also give you the speed for each monitor. Pretty good tool. Number 6, responsive design. He goes on to say, in fact, it's possible that Google will. Now, he said, in fact, it's possible. So I don't know how you can say in fact and it's possible. Kind of ironic, but he said that Google will favor sites with the responsive design for searches performed on mobile devices. And I agree with that. I do agree with that. If Google knows that your site is responsive and that the mobile user is going to have a great experience,
that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Then your site will likely get ranked higher. But I will say, in regards to responsive design, just make sure you're taking advantage of being responsive. Don't go with the default kind of bootstrap responsive setup, and then because it may not work for your mobile
assume
users.
That it works good mobile.
It may look good, but it still may not function correctly. Right. For example, you may be in an industry where once people they need to search, they have to go find a product, they have to do this, and so your navigation is going to be extremely important. And so that default responsive design may put that nav under a 3-bar menu that they got to tap and open up, and that may not be the best course of action for people to convert on your site from a mobile search.
It could be an extra click where you could have put the top 3 things right there.
Right there, exactly. So consider that thing. Well, I will say responsive does eliminate the opportunity for dupe content. And so, that's one of the main reasons why we push responsive, because at the end of the day, you may not necessarily need to be responsive, but you definitely don't want to have dupe content out there. That's just a headache. And take the time to style it right, like we were just saying. Make sure you understand what people have to do, and so you can cater your responsiveness. Second time to happen. You can cater your responsiveness to that specific layout and that specific user. So that was number 6. Number 7 is navigation. Those sounds, So number 7 is navigation, and navigation is key. We're just talking now. He says user experience is arguably the most important single aspect of SEO, because if your users can't use the site, then you won't get links, mentions, or customers. And at the end of the day, that's true. If they can't use it, if they can't find what they're looking for, then they won't link to it. They won't share it. They won't buy it from you. And frankly, that may even lead to down a wrong path, like a negative review or a negative experience or a bad referral. Last thing you want is word of mouth negative word of mouth about you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want that at all. He says highlight which pages are most important. He also says decide which pages need to be accessible and from where. I added this to it. Use breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs are a great way to, especially if you have a complicated navigation, a huge site, let's say like Amazon or Fry's or something like that. Breadcrumbs are necessary.
Yeah.
Because there's so many categories, there's so many ways to get to different products from multiple categories, and so many pages, so many content, so much products. You need to be able to backtrack the steps you took, and breadcrumbs help you do that.
Yeah.
Another tip: link your logo to the homepage.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, some people, you would think that it would be default now, and most of the time it is. But occasionally, I come across those sites where I just want to get back to the home, and they don't have a home nav because that's really not important.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm. It's smart to not have that,
right.
you know. But the homepage, the logo isn't linked, and so now, how do I get back to the homepage? Last one. Be careful with drop-down menus. We're talking navigation. Again, let's say from a responsive navigation.
Right.
You're on a tablet or a mobile device and you have several layers of drop-down menus, it's going to be a problem because you don't have a way to hover on a phone or a tablet. You have to tap it. And so if that first tap activates a link, then they can never see your drop-down.
Yeah.
So be cautious when using drop-down.
I can actually hear people like stopping and pulling up websites on their phone right now to confirm, wait, does that work that way?
Yeah, you can't hover over it. You're going to tap it, and now, unfortunately, when you tap it, that drop-down may open up.
And they can see it. It's more frustrating than never seeing it.
Because as soon as you see it, you get ready to tap, and then if you're doing it 6 seconds, like we're talking about,
it's gone.
It's gone. You're going to the page that you actually tapped on. And so be careful with fly-out menus and drop-down menus, especially when you know bulk of your traffic is mobile. You have to figure out a different mobile menu for when they're looking on a monitor that size, you know, so it can be accessible to them. That might be our tip. Number 8, and we talked 9, so we're on 2 more to go. Number 8, he says simple SEO controls. Simple SEO controls. He's really talking about basics, right? You know, writing a carefully crafted title. Right. You have to do that. Descriptive meta descriptions. Descriptive meta descriptions. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he says write descriptive meta descriptions, and don't forget to tag your images. So number 8 is really just cover the basics. I wrote down, make sure you got a consistent nav. Make sure that you know all these are part of your basics. Make sure that your contact information is on there in text, right? So it can be indexed, right? And include links to your social sites, things like that. All these are SEO basics. Not only, he said tag your images, I'll say tag and title your images. Yeah. Those are basics that are important. So make sure you do that. And last one, number 9, plan your marketing now. And again, we're talking about, you know, hashtag SEO, 9 things to do in regards to SEO when building a new site. Number 9, it says plan your marketing now. When having a site built, never assume that the marketing will sort itself out. You should plan in advance how you want to market and how you would drive traffic to it, because this is likely the hardest part of having a new site anyway.
Yeah. This is when we've been saying this for years. The days of if you build it, they will come are gone. Yeah. So you need to build it and then drive traffic.
You almost need to get them coming before you build it.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly.
Yeah.
So they can watch you build it and be anticipated about it. But he's absolutely right. Can't put the cart before the horse. Yeah. You can't just build it and then figure out, okay, now how we're going to market this. No, how you're going to market your site definitely has to be part of the site building process. Yeah. You need to know what you're going to do. If you plan to do SEO, then everything we talked about today, you need to implement. If you're doing PPC, then consider what landing pages you need, right? How they need to be laid out. You need to know that before you build your site. You know, understand your marketing. And so one of the things I put on here to add to that, consider your sales funnel when building your site, right? If you know that it takes a phone call that leads to a site visit, that leads to a proposal, that leads to a presentation, and you finally get a deal out of that, there's 5 different steps. Your site should complement that sales funnel, right? You don't want to put a site up that leads people down to getting a contract when you know they're not going to do that because they haven't had a meeting, they haven't got a presentation, they haven't had a site visit, right. You know, and so build your site and design your site in a way that complements your whole sales funnel. And so that way, when you do get site visitors, they can fall in at the top and go through your process, and you have a higher likelihood of getting that engagement and that conversion.
Excellent.
So, yeah, so punch in the face. I'm gonna shout out. Punch in the face to Alex Johnson, SEO 101 hashtag 9 SEO considerations when building a new website. Great article. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. All right, so I think we have some. What else we got? We got some.
I got word of the week and I got what?
Word of the week. All right.
So this week's word of the week is retargeting.
Retargeting.
Retargeting, and retargeting is basically the process of like showing your ads to people who have shown interest in you already. Maybe they visited your site, maybe they looked at one of your competitor sites, maybe they used a certain set of key phrases that you are also marketing for, and so you can retarget those people. Not to be confused with remarketing. They're actually the same thing.
Right.
Only difference is remarketing is Google's way of doing it. They just call it remarketing.
Okay.
Everybody else calls it retargeting.
Okay.
Same exact
So
thing.
it's Facebook retargeting and Google remarketing.
No, it's the world retargeting. Facebook retargets, Bing retargets,
Google
Twitter
retargets. They just call it
remarketing.
Okay.
That's the only difference. Remarketing. If somebody says remarketing, then they're probably in AdWords.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place you will see remarketing.
Yeah, because the spell check doesn't come up with remarketing.
Nope,
It does
not
not exist, actually.
And so that's our word of the week, retargeting. It do got a little what news.
Cool.
What? Yeah, so this is what goes to Apple.
Yeah.
Like you know, I almost said kudos on the new product launches. I think the iWatch is gonna be kind of cool. The Apple Watch. I know you guys trying to get away from the i stuff.
Yeah.
But the what is because you guys did a huge marketing launch, a huge promo, released a whole bunch of new devices, got a whole bunch of new buyers. Then you released an update, and that update apparently sucked. That update
Big time.
couldn't use their phones. Had people's phones cutting off. They couldn't log on. They couldn't access the network. It was bad, horribly bad. The worst kind of mistake you ever want to make immediately following a product launch.
And then you got to give them a punch in the face because, like,
They fixed it immediately.
The next day it was fixed.
Yeah, punch in the face for recognizing the severity of the issue and fixing it immediately. But at the same time, I just feel like that probably wouldn't have happened if Jobs was here.
Yeah, you certainly get that sense.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys have been listening to the most popular internet marketing podcast on iTunes in the known universe, on Stitcher probably. This is podcast number 251. Remember, we are broadcasting. This is filmed and broadcast live Fridays at 12:15 Central Standard Time from 5999 West 34th Street, Suite 106, Houston, Texas 77092. Until the next podcast, my name's Chris Burris.
Charles Lewis.
Bye-bye for now.
Wait.